There's a million people in the world, and they're all trying to win the game against each other, but only one can win. Well, according to game theory, the best way to win a game is by, does anyone know? Cheating, okay? Cheating. If you follow the rules, you will never win the game, you have to cheat.
9,000 millones de dólares en multas. Eso pagaron los bancos globales en 2012, por manipular la tasa Libor, el índice mundial que define el interés diario de hipotecas, créditos estudiantiles y préstamos corporativos, y eso es exactamente lo que esconde la palabra trampa del autor. No es un defecto moral aislado, es un mecanismo de coordinación colectiva que encareció directamente tu cuota durante una década. Hoy el sistema castiga al que compite limpio y premia al que conspira en secreto. El próximo segmento desmonta esa lealtad inquebrantable usando matemática pura.
So let's look at examples. So family is one example, right? Of coordination, synchronicity. Another example is religion. If you have a leader, right? If you have a similar race, ethnicity, and you have a similar language. Okay, so these are examples of how you get people to coordinate together. The problem is that these are all obvious to people, which forces them to do the same thing. Okay? But there's a strategy that you can use that allows you to coordinate secretly and defeat all your enemies. And this strategy is called transgression. Transgression. The breaking of taboos, the breaking of social norms, the breaking of social laws. Transgression. Okay, so let's study this concept. All right, so the idea is that, the theory is that the greater you transgress, okay? This is the level of transgression. The greater your cohesion, which leads to synchronicity. Okay, that's a theory I want to propose to you. All right? So, transgression, I mean, it's a very simple idea. You're breaking the rules, right? You're cheating. And therefore, everyone wants to put you in prison. Which means that the only way that you can survive is if you keep the secret among your group, right? Which forces cohesion. Does that make sense?
Esa táctica de cruzar el límite juntos no es teoría pura. En 1999, 34 comandos de élite del ejército mexicano desertaron para fundar el cartel de los Zetas, y su rito de iniciación era cometer actos de brutalidad pública tan extremos que el retorno a la vida legal fuera imposible. El crimen compartido funciona como una póliza de seguro invencible, porque si uno habla, todos terminan en prisión. Lo que vas a ver ahora es un experimento mental escalofriante que desnuda este exacto proceso de mutación psicológica, paso a paso.
The thought experiment is this. Let's just say that there's an island. We don't know where the island is, but it's an island. And there's no escape from the island. And on the island, the center, it's a hill, and it's safe. But everywhere else, you have these flesh-eating monkeys roaming everywhere. Okay? The problem is that on this island, the resources you need to survive, trees, food, and rivers, the monkeys are there, okay? There's one safe spot in the center, but everywhere else, if you want resources, you have to go fight these monkeys. They're flesh-eating monkeys. They want to kill you, they want to eat you. And there's an infinite number of them. Now, let's just say that one day, for whatever reason, okay, we don't know why, but 100 men, aging, and they range from 15 to 65 years old, okay? They are mysteriously transplanted onto this island in a safe spot. They come from different countries. They do not speak the same language. They are of different ethnicities. They are all poor people in their countries. They don't have much education. So they're there, and they realize quickly that the situation is utterly hopeless. There's no escape from this island. These monkeys are everywhere, and they are tough warriors. And the situation looks bleak. They don't even speak the same language. They don't have a common culture. So at this point, you would imagine that they would feel hopeless and just lie down, and die. But in reality, what happens is the opposite. What happens is that in this hopeless situation, they find a drive, a purpose, a spirit to fight for each other. And what will happen really quickly, okay, and this is really interesting, is the first thing that they will do is they will develop a common language. They don't speak the same language. Some speak Chinese, some speak English, some speak Spanish, some speak Russian, doesn't matter. They will very quickly develop a common language. And then what they will do is, with this common language, they will start to tell each other stories of where they come from. And then these stories will become a common myth, a founding myth of why they're here. And they come to believe that God has chosen them to save the world, and that's why they're here. Then what they will do is, with this new religion, they will start to develop rituals to reinforce this religion. These rituals include sex. Okay? So these men will have sex. And the reason why is to create intimacy and bonding among them. And there'll be a lot of religious rituals as well. Another thing that they will do is pick a leader. There's 100 of them. They need a leader to organize them. And so we can imagine that during the leadership election, everyone gets up to speak. Now, the man who's 65, he is wise. He has experience. He has strategies. So he delivers a very powerful speech, inspiring everyone and telling people how they can survive against the flesh-eating monkeys. Okay, so he's really smart. Then suddenly you have a man up here who's 15 years old, or 16, or 17, okay? He is not articulate. He has no ideas. What he does is this. He stands in front of everyone, and he's bold, and he's brave, and he looks at everyone without saying a word. He shows them his hand, okay? He shows them his hand. Then from his pocket, he takes out a knife, okay? And then he cuts off his hand in front of everyone. And he does not cry. He just looks at everyone as though nothing happened. Let me ask you this question. Who does everyone pick to be their leader? The second person, obviously, right? The man who has shown sacrifice and commitment and devotion to everyone else. The old man has ideas, and he will become the advisor to the leader, but the leader is the man who is most willing to die for everyone else. And so in this situation, the bravest among them will come and emerge as the leader. And as such, what will happen is that these people, these men, will become extremely inspired and devoted. Even though they are weak, they will learn to become strong. Even though they are poor and uneducated, they will learn to be wise and clever and strategic. They will radically transform themselves. And ultimately, what will happen is the idea of cohesion. Cohesion like brothers, cohesion like a family. They will understand each other, even though they're from different cultures, even though they have different backgrounds. They will understand each other better than they understand their own children and their own wives. And this cohesion will lead to something called synchronicity. Synchronicity. Synchronicity is when people act in unison together. Okay? So a very simple example of synchronicity is a sports team, right? When you watch a soccer match, how is that soccer team able to work together? Well, because of synchronicity, because their minds are alike. It's what we call a hive mind. You don't know what's happening, but something in your heart is telling you, I need to get in touch with my son. Okay, and that's how the hive mind works. That's how synchronicity works. Let's look at another example. Let's just say that one day there's 10 of you and you're all collecting wood. and then suddenly you're attacked by 100 flesh-eating monkeys. There's a bridge that you've created, okay? It's a rope bridge. 9 get across the bridge, all right, but you're the last person, okay? And all the monkeys are about to descend on you. And you know that if the monkeys get across, your comrades are dead. So what do you do in this situation? Yeah, you cut the rope, okay? You die. You didn't think about it. You just kill yourself, because what matters is not your life. What matters is the family. What matters is the team. And we know about this because in war, what often happens is in trench warfare, the enemy will throw a grenade into the trench, right? There's not enough time to pick up that grenade and throw it away. So what soldiers do is they will jump on the grenade and absorb the explosion, thus killing himself. It happens instantaneously. No one thinks about it. You just do it because what matters is saving your comrades. And this is what happens. Okay? A synchronicity develops where it's almost as though you're able to read each other's minds. And they keep on doing this for like 10, 20 years. And then suddenly, okay, let's continue a thought experiment. Suddenly, you are transported back to the real world as though nothing happened. But you have memories of what happened. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, you've experienced 20 years of hell on Monkey Island. You've developed the capacity to work together. You have a hive mind. You're really energized. You're really inspired. You're really driven. You have a new religion all to yourself. Now, suddenly, you're all transported back to your real world, your old life. Okay? Now what would happen? Well, what would happen is that the 100 of you would want to come together again, right? And you would share your experience, your rituals, your religion with your children and your grandchildren. And quickly, over time, what will happen is that you guys will conquer the world.
Esa transferencia de poder desde la isla hacia la civilización es la anatomía oculta de nuestras instituciones. La Sociedad Secreta, Skull and Bones, fue fundada en la Universidad de Yale en 1832, aplicando dinámicas de humillación y secreto extremo entre sus miembros. De ese pequeño club cerrado salieron 3 presidentes de Estados Unidos y decenas de directores de inteligencia que diseñaron tu política exterior moderna. Y como el profesor Yang revela a continuación, este modelo de diseño social tiene una huella brutal y documentada en el mundo antiguo.
Sparta is one of the most famous military societies in world history. Sparta is a city-state in ancient Greece. And you may have heard of Sparta. A movie about Sparta was made called 300. I'm not sure if you guys have seen the movie 300. But 300 is really about 300 Spartan soldiers who are fighting millions, not millions, but hundreds of thousands of Persian soldiers. Persia is invading mainland Greece. They fight at a place called Thermopylae, the Battle of Thermopylae. And this is the pass into mainland Greece. The Greeks have to hold this position if they are to prevent the invasion. Okay? 300 Spartan soldiers, backed by thousands of other Greek soldiers, make a last stand in this pass. They are overwhelmed by the Persian invasion, and rather than run, like most people, the 300 soldiers make a final stand. Their leader is Leonidas, and he tells them, we will fight to the death. They all fight to the death, and they're all massacred. And the Persians take Leonidas' head, cut it off, and put it on a pike to warn the Greeks, we are merciless. Eventually, the Greeks, inspired by the sacrifice of Leonidas, they will repel the invasion and destroy the invaders. So how do we get this culture? Okay? Well, the education system of the Spartans is really interesting. It's really disturbing, actually. So young boys at age 5 and 6, they're taken away from their homes. And they are put in a school run by older boys. Okay, so the older boys are maybe like 10, 11. And so what happens, as you can imagine, is the older boys beat the crap out of the younger boys, okay? From day one, there's no education. They're not learning anything. All that's happening is the older boys are just beating the crap out of the younger boys. But because this is happening, we call this like hazing, okay? And this happens actually a lot among fraternities and sports teams. When they're getting the crap beaten out of them, it builds solidarity. It builds brotherhood. So these young boys who are 5 and 6, they learn to love each other because only by helping each other can they survive the brutality. Okay? Then what happens is when they become 11, 12, 13, when they hit puberty, this is really interesting, they become mentored, okay? Mentored by an older soldier, an older Spartan soldier who's maybe 28, 29, 30, but he has a family. They become lovers. They have sex with each other. And this builds group solidarity, okay? So during hazing phase, these young boys learn to trust each other. They learn how to bond with each other. During the mentorship phase, these young boys learn to think like in a hive mind, okay? They learn to be part of a larger group. Then when they turn 18, they graduate, okay? And in order to graduate, what they do is this. They have a mission. So the Spartans have slaves called helots, okay? These are just people that they've conquered and who are now work as slaves in the fields for them, okay? They're like serfs. So there are lots of rules governing the helots. An important rule is curfew. So if it's dark at night, you cannot be outside the house. If you are outside the house at night, you could be executed, okay? So as a graduation mission, these young soldiers hide in the fields at night, okay? They hide in the fields and they wait for the sun to go down. So it's now dark. And they look for helots to come back because they're late. And what they'll do is they'll sneak up behind the helots and cut their throats. Okay, this is basically sacrifice. Okay, human sacrifice. So the Spartans did this as well. It's a very common thing. And what this does is it builds group cohesion, leading to synchronicity. There are thousands of city-states in Greece. Only Sparta did this. And it made everyone think Sparta was disgusting. Everyone hated Sparta. But it kept Sparta unified. And it made Sparta into the dominant military power in Greece at that time. Okay?
Esa cacería nocturna no era simple crueldad adolescente, era terrorismo de Estado, por pura supervivencia demográfica. Según los censos históricos, por cada ciudadano espartano libre, existían hasta 7 esclavos ilotas, trabajando la tierra bajo amenaza de muerte, para sostener esa economía militarizada. Mantener sometida a una mayoría abrumadora requiere un nivel de violencia y lealtad cómplice que el ejército regular no puede garantizar por sí solo. Pero esa maquinaria de sangre no se quedó en Esparta, y el próximo clip te muestra cómo una potencia vecina robó el manual militar para perfeccionarlo.
What happened then is Thebes, another city-state in Greece, they would copy the Spartan system, okay? But they made it voluntary. So in Sparta, you have to be an elite to be part of the system. But in Thebes, anyone could join the system, okay? And they call the system the Sacred Band. Of 300 soldiers. And they were, again, lovers, okay? But this is really important for you guys to understand. At this time in history, there's no concept of homosexuality. It was perfectly permissible. No one cared if you had sex with men or animals or whatever, okay? It was not a big deal. This comes much later in modern times. Back then, homosexuality was not considered a concept, okay? If you're out in the field, if you're out at war for like years and years and there's no woman around, you're gonna have sex with other men. It's a very natural thing to do. Okay, it doesn't mean you're homosexual, okay? So the Sacred Band of Thebes became the dominant military power after Sparta, okay? It's called the Sacred Band. And they were like the vanguard, they were the spearhead. They would be the first in battle. And they were so ferocious that their enemies would run away. Okay? Then what happened is that Macedonia would copy the Theban system. Who's the most famous Macedonian in the world? Do you guys know? Which Macedonian is the most famous ever in human history? You know the name, but you may not know he's Macedonian. Alexander the Great, okay? His father is Philip II. Philip II is the one that actually built the greatest army in the world, the Macedonian army. And it was Alexander the Great, his son, who would take this army and conquer Persia. Okay, we'll learn this later on. But Philip II learned all this from Thebes. And at first, Macedonia and Thebes were allies, but Philip II was very ambitious. So then he wanted to conquer all of mainland Greece. And in 338 BCE, at the Battle of Trachonia, Macedonia fought against the combined might of Thebes and Athens. And Macedonia destroyed Thebes and Athens, okay? Because Macedonia basically copied the system from Sparta and Thebes. At this point, Macedonia should have destroyed the entire Theban and Athenian army. But when all was lost, the sacred band, they stood in the middle of the field and they blocked the advance of the Macedonian charge so that everyone could escape back into the cities. They did not fear death. They welcomed death. Okay? For them, what mattered was honor and sacrifice. And that's how you create the greatest army in the world. Okay? Does that make sense? So these historical analogies give credence to our thought experiment. Okay, now we're going to look at a question, which is, okay, why does this system work?
Ese nivel de sincronía suicida ya no requiere espadas en el campo de batalla moderno. Hoy el mecanismo de lealtad extrema se compra con el chantaje y la destrucción de la moralidad pública. Cuando el financista Jeffrey Epstein fue arrestado en 2019, quedó en evidencia que la élite política y corporativa sellaba sus pactos de silencio, visitando una isla privada para cometer delitos atroces imposibles de confesar. El que cruza la línea ya no puede traicionar a la manada. Presta atención, porque la pieza final de esta clase expone el verdadero costo de esas cúpulas intocables.
So the most basic form of transgression is just joking or pranking, right? So for example, you guys, 6 of you, decide, you know what, we're going to play a joke on the school. We're going to cover all the rooms with toilet paper. It's a joke, it's a prank. But obviously, you don't want to get caught because the school will punish you. And this joke and this prank will make you more cohesive, right? Because now you have a secret amongst yourself. And if anyone betrays you, you're all screwed. Right? Does that make sense? That's the logic. The other thing that's really interesting is that when you transgress, when you break a taboo, you feel empowered. You feel liberated. And it becomes addictive. Right? You fill the school with toilet paper. You're like, that was a lot of fun. Why was it fun? Because you broke the rules. You feel, I'm more powerful than my teacher. So you keep on doing more and more of this stuff, right? Then you may be like, hey, let's go to the store and steal a candy. That candy may cost $1, nothing, right? But you try it and you are terrified. You're seized by doubt. You're seized by fear. Sorry, so this is the sound that tells us that we should go on break, but again, we don't go on break in this class, okay? So I apologize. We're not taking a break. We keep on going, okay? But that's what the sound is. Okay, so you're terrified because your mother, your teachers, everyone told you stealing is bad, right? But when you actually go and do it, how do you feel? You feel energized. You feel liberated. You feel empowered. And if your friends are with you, the friendship becomes much more unified, much more cohesive, much more synchronized. Does that make sense? And now you want to like, let's break more rules. Let's see what happens if we break more and more rules. And you keep on going because it's addictive. And ultimately, there's a transgression that is the ultimate taboo, which is what? You guys know? Yeah, right? This. Right? Can you think of a more worse transgression than this? That's why they do it. Because it feels empowering. It releases energy. They do it because they believe that when you do this, it releases divine energy. And when you actually do it, okay? Guys, I'm not telling you to go do this, okay? Please do not do this. Okay? And please remember, okay? This is evil. We should not be doing this. But when you actually go and do it, those who can do it, they feel as though they are now inundated, that now they are now filled with divine energy. They found the secret of the universe. They found the ultimate power in the world. Another transgression, which is not as bad, but pretty bad, is the idea of incest, right? And there are secret societies out there, guys, that do this. And you know what, guys? I hate to tell you this, okay? But they do it in public in front of everyone else, because that creates both group unity, synchronicity, and it releases in their minds divine energy. They have now access to God. If you want to know what secret societies do, well, yeah, this and this, okay? And again, this is only a small group of people. But now we know why these people control the world. Because they're able to keep secrets. Because they're more motivated than everyone else. And they're able to work together in a way that allows them to achieve ultimate power. These leaders you see, right? These leaders you see, they are puppets. They are just the face. The real power are these secret societies that practice these rituals. And again, I'm not saying this is the truth. I'm just saying this is a possible theory about how the world works, right? Because this is a class of speculation. It's a class of theory.